Today I am going to give you 10 pointers on lease negotiations, and these come from years of experience signing lease and looking at leases for people to sign, and my own personal experience whenever it comes to leases. And just so you know, right now I am looking yet at another lease for one of my businesses. And so these are 10 points that I want you to consider anytime you are looking at negotiating with a landlord or negotiating with someone who's negotiating on behalf of a landlord. The first one is, do not get emotional or excited. Signing a new lease or opening something new is really exciting and enticing. But if something goes wrong, and it will, the consequences can be bankruptcy. This is talking from experience. I am fortunate enough not to have faced bankruptcy, but I have gotten excited. I have signed leases blindly many times and then thought, oh my God, what a stupid decision that was, or without having things that put in place that should have been in the lease to start with. So try to take anything emotional out of the equation. Don't get excited, don't get emotional, don't, just be neutral. Signing a new lease is really exciting because it means that you are getting on, or you are trying to get ahead in life. But there is a caveat there. If something goes wrong, the consequences can be dire. And this is something that I've faced many times whenever I've helped people buy and sell companies. Leases are a sticking point. Point number 2, are you signing the lease yourself, or is your business signing the lease? You are an entity. A company is a different legal entity, is a limited company, and it's a recipient legally for something else. So, and if your business is signing the lease, are you required to be a guarantor if the proverbial crap hits the fan? Really do think about this. Nowadays, landlords, well, and understandably so, want to get paid. So if you're a landlord and you have worked hard for your money and to acquire this asset, what you want is to get paid, and that is fair enough. So whenever you sign the lease, is it you who are being the guarantor for the property, or is your company guarantor for the property? Is there anything else you can offer as collateral if crap hit the fan? Think about this. Is there any room for negotiation within the lease for that? Are you signing the lease? Is a limited company signing the lease? At the same time, what covenants can you provide? How good is your balance sheet, or your business's balance sheet, if you are doing it through a company, right? Again, your landlord just wants to get paid, and that is fair enough. So they need to make sure somehow that you can pay. So what else can you offer your landlord whenever it comes to this lease? And are they going to agree to that? In my many years of dealing with landlords directly myself and with other people, there's two kinds of landlords. You've got reasonable people and you've got unreasonable people. And many times I have literally just walked away from unreasonable people because they wanted, a 20-year lease, and they wanted to increase rent every single 6 months. And it's just unrealistic. And I've just walked away and I've said, I can't really reason with this person. I'm obviously exaggerating, but I can't reason or negotiate with this person. I'm really sorry, I'm going to walk away. And then I have encountered very reasonable, nice people, and they have been okay, So What covenants can you provide? And how is that going to work? Number 4, and this is something accepted within commercial property, rent-free periods, first year discounts. If you are looking at a lease within a shopping centre, for example, you might ask for 6 months, a year, 2 years. I don't know, because these landlords might be pension funds and they don't really need the money to live today. But if you are looking at leasing a property from a professional, from say a doctor who's worked hard and they've got 2 or 3 properties and that gives them a little bit of money on the side, or that is just a side hustle, as it were, what can you get in terms of like rent-free periods, first year discounts? What needs to be done to the property and who is going to do that to the property? So we see again a lot of people that have leases or properties rather, and those properties need a boatload of work and the landlord isn't interested. Or I have encountered for my business that some landlords have been keeping on top of the commercial property, and that commercial property is spotless and it's just ready for you to go in. So which one is it? What do you need in order to start your business? Number 5 is, can you afford business rates? Business rates are extortionate in my opinion. They're a robbery. They are a tax on the high street, but they need to be paid, you know. It goes on rateable value. You have to do your own due diligence whenever it comes to business rates. It's not just the rent, it's the business rates as well. And it's not just the rent or the business rates, it's the water, it's the electricity, it's this, it's that, it's the insurance, it's everything. So what can we do, right, to afford business rates if we are going into this property? Are we going to be able to afford business rates? Obviously, the bigger the premises, the bigger the rateable value, the higher the business rate. Business rates, something to definitely pay attention to because it can wreck your profits. When you exit the lease, number 6, how do you have to return the property? Very, very important. You might think that if you go into a property, right? Let's say you go into a clean room, an empty room, and you spend £400,000 into turning it, and you turn it into a restaurant, and you fit it with gas pipes, and you create a kitchen, and you fit a kitchen, and you make it look unreal, air conditioning, this, that, the other. The landlord might have told you that they want the property in the same condition as when the lease started. So by you spending £400,000, you haven't made the property better. Yes, you might have in your eyes, but you haven't in the eyes of the law. So if you can include something called leave the property in a broom clean condition, and that's a legal term, broom clean condition or something along those lines when exiting the lease, as opposed to getting hit with a huge dilapidations bill at the end of it. And this can be devastating to you. This can be devastating to your life and your lifestyle. If you get hit with a 60 grand, £200,000 dilapidations bill, that's literally horrible. So have a look at the lease whenever you started, and what condition does the property need to be returned in? Extremely, extremely important. Arguably something no one ever talks about, And I have encountered 0 solicitors that have told me about this until I have encountered it myself. So, there you go. Number 7 is be reasonable, and they can hopefully be reasonable. I made a very conscious decision many years ago on being reasonable with people and with landlords. And if landlords want to be reasonable with my businesses, I can be reasonable with them. What I'm not going to do is trying to be reasonable with people who don't want to be reasonable. So on the understanding that we are both reasonable people, let's do business. If someone is not reasonable, I would not go into that premises, no matter how much I like the premises. I won't do it. Number 8, do you have the right to renew, the right to change things around? And this has actually happened to me. I thought about sweating the equity many years ago of one of my properties that had a trade-in allowance. I wanted to do a specific something within the trade-in business, and that's what I wrote on the lease. And then I had the idea that I had empty rooms and maybe I could go into something else, into another trading activity. Is that allowed by the lease? Can I give myself the option when I'm signing the lease that I can do whatever trading activity I want within reason? And what does within reason mean? So make sure you word it somehow that it say you want to, you want to set up a restaurant and a day nursery, and want to give yourself the optionality for a day nursery, that you make sure you word that somehow so that you don't have to go back to the landlord and you have to get approval and you might get rejected, and then your company, your restaurant isn't making as much money as you wanted it to make, and now you're up to here with bills, and you think that this other venture would, make things better for you, but you can't legally. Honestly, can you leave the lease open in any way that it gives you a bit more flexibility? I think that's a good idea, and I have been doing it ever since that happened to me. Number 9 is for me to tell you that getting out of a lease is almost mission impossible. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but getting out of a lease because you want to get out of a lease is almost mission impossible. So make sure that you go into this with your eyes open, and so this is it. Signing a lease is the real deal, is the real McCoy. So make sure you know what you're doing, and you have the time and the commitment and the oomph and the enthusiasm and the knowledge and the know-how in order to make it work, because getting out of leases is very, very hard. And if something goes wrong, you are going to have to cough up the money. And if the rent is 20, 40, 80 grand a year, you might have to foot that bill until it gets paid, if you can no longer trade in your business for whatever reason. And number 10 is that there's no right or wrong way to go on about it. You have to have a mix sometimes of arrogance and stupidity at the same time. You have to be extremely confident that something is going to work. So if you think it's going to work, then go for it. But at the same time, realize that it can be completely folly and you might be wrong. And with that premise of arrogance and I'm probably wrong, that's a good way, a good mental state to be in. There's no right or wrong way to go on about things either, meaning the law is flexible. I can put any amount of clauses I want. I can be as creative as possible. At the end of the day, a lease is a contract, and a contract is an interpretation of different things. It's a conversation within two parties or among two parties rather. So whenever you talk about leases and covenants and clauses and little things, you can get as creative as possible and you can propose as many things as possible. And if those things are agreed by the other party, guess what? You have come up with something legally binding. So things are open in law, and you can actually do them if it is legal, first of all, and second of all, if both parties agree. So those are 10 things I want to tell you if you want to sign a lease in the UK. And this obviously applies to the UK, but can apply to many other countries if you are in other countries. So let me tell you what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.